Hello everyone, welcome to the first of probably a few different video game slash entertainment themed cider recipes. Today's recipe I've taken inspiration from Mass Effect. It's probably one of my favorite, if not favorite games, definitely my favorite sci-fi game. The cider we're going to be making today is going to be called an Element Zero cider, or Element Zero wine, I guess. It's more of an apple wine than it is more of a cider. And the recipe that we're going to get is kind of inspired by this substance within the universe that gives biotic powers. It allows people to manipulate Mass Effect fields. It's basically the substance. I guess the Dune equivalent would be it's the spice of the Mass Effect universe. It's a substance that allows for faster than light travel by manipulation of these fields called Mass Effect fields. Anyway, the the substance looks really bluish and kind of has a really kind of fluorescent glow to it. So we're going to be trying to make something that's blue. Things that are blue in nature are really hard to find. Just like you have the sky. There are some flowers that are blue, but having a blue pigment inside something that's like a fruit doesn't really exist. You may say, oh, well, there's blueberries. They're really kind of purple. So try making something blue with blueberries. It just really doesn't work. So we're going to be going ahead and trying to get something as a base that is as close to clear as possible, has an apple flavor to it, and then we are going to go about adding color back to it. What color we're going to add to it is going to be this. I don't want to spoil it until we get to it. It's going to be pretty fun. So anyway. The reason why I have a few things here is we have two possible choices for cider. These are both store-bought juices. This one is a Honeycrisp apple cider, and this one is a treetop kind of apple juice blend. I don't know what the hell it is. It's just a good blend of cider, good apple juice blend. We're going to be going with the Honeycrisp one, even though it's considerably more hazy than it, because when it ferments out, it produces this nice, really clear cider. Almost kind of like a pale ale, transparent, almost whitish type of cider. And it's really good. So we're going to be starting with this as a base, and we're going to be fermenting it out. The only thing that is difficult with this cider is exceptionally hard to clear. This took about 4 months to get to this clarity of state, and that's a long time to wait for a cider, especially when we're doing like a meme cider. So don't want to wait too long for that. So we're going to be speeding the process along via a few things. So our primary thing that we're going to use to clarify is pectinase, or pectic enzyme, and bentonite. Bentonite is a volcanic soil powder that pulls a bunch of negatively charged ions to the bottom of it. And what I've seen with this particular juice is that bentonite actually clears it really well. It just takes a bit of time. So we're going to be adding it to primary and allowing that CO2 to kind of pull things down, and it's going to clear in primary. Nutrient additions we're going to be adding are going to be formato and diammonium phosphate. And to add a little bit of extra mouthfeel and acid, we're going to be adding malic acid and white wine tannin. This really is kind of a choose-your-own-adventure type of thing here. I have written down some preliminary notes for myself about what I want to be for target ABVs and target original gravity and final gravity, but it's mostly I'm just trying to create something as we go. This is going to be a little bit of an exciting one. So it's Mass Effect themed, so I thought a nice adjunct addition to this would be buzz buttons. They're this kind of a citrus tasting flower that produces this really, it's very hard to describe, like an electric feeling in your mouth. And when I first thought about it, I'm like, oh, this would be really cool inside of a themed cider like Mass Effect, because it creates something that I consider to be like a science fiction-y type of thing. It's basically, it does weird things, and it's a biological thing. So I'm like, oh, well, we can toss it into something that's vaguely biotic from Mass Effect. To add kind of some body and character to it, in secondary, we're going to be adding some Citra hops, a Citra cryo hops. We're going to be adding about a half of an ounce of Citro Cryo hops. And in secondary as well, that's where we're going to be adding our buzz button extract during the bottle phase. This is going to be a 1 gallon batch, so everything's going to be bottle conditioned. So in order to go along with the bottle conditioning, we want to have some residual sweetness for this apple wine, the sparkling apple wine. So we're going to have 120 grams of erythritol added to this, this mixture. Erythritol is about 75% as sweet as sugar. So whenever we add this much about erythritol, we're expecting a final gravity of about 1.008, which translates to a medium dry cider. So that's what we expect for final gravity. In order to bump up the ABV of this, we're going to add 450 grams of cane sugar. And we're going to add the 450 grams of cane sugar with a quart of water, go with it on a boil, and then add it directly to our cider that we're going to pitch over here. In the boil phase, after the sugar gets dissolved, we're going to be boiling for like maybe a couple minutes. After the sugar gets completely dissolved, we'll add our nutrient slash bentonite addition. And then once we add all of that to the mixture, then we'll go ahead and add our pectinase to it as well. This mixture also has our Fermento, diammonium phosphate wine tannins, and malic acid as well as the bentonite. So we have everything inside here just ready to go. This is our erythritol, and we're going to go ahead and get started. For this brew, we're anticipating a 1.083 specific gravity to start out with. So we're going to measure that with our hydrometer once we get everything mixed up. We're going to go ahead and add our sugar to this, all 450 grams of it, and our 120 grams of erythritol directly into here. And then now we're going to add a quart of water. All right, adding our water in. Going to give this a nice mix up down here. And then turning on our induction burner. I'm going to turn it on to, I don't know, let's turn it on to 800 watts. Thing gets up to 1700 watts, I think, at high end. So 800 is a little bit, actually, let's go 1000 watts. Screw it. Induction is relatively heat efficient. While this is heating up to a hot temperature, we're going to go ahead and add into our fermenter, our sanitized fermenter. I don't make too much talk about sanitization because I just assume it's something that you do. So if you don't sanitize and clean things, you should really start doing that because you get better results. Unless you're trying for wild ferments, and then you still need to sanitize things beforehand, but you know, it's less important, I suppose. So we're going to be really gentle when we pour this juice. I don't want all this garbage that's at the bottom of it to go into here. I want to give as much help to clear this up as possible. So laminar flow is created when you have no back pressure on your fluid. So that's why when you have it just being pressed down by atmospheric, once it gets past that nozzle, then you get laminar flow. This stuff is very loose particulate too, so the bentonite really is necessary to clear this up. So yeah, that basically is just all gunk in the bottom there now. So go ahead and heat this up, stir it, and then once this gets up to temperature, I'll go ahead and add it to our mixture over here. Okay, now that this is up to temperature, we're just going to add our nutrients to our pot. Get that all nice and mixed up in there. Yum. Sugary and yeasty, boys. Mix this up and turn off our pot because it's going to foam pretty hot if we don't do that. Get this all mixed up. Yeast nutrients really likes to stick together. Smells awful. I hate the smell of yeast nutrient. It smells like cheese. You know, it kind of makes sense. Like, this is basically nooch. This is nooch. This is nutritional yeast. That's what did it? That's that smell. This is nooch. This is what this is. Wow. I just had this gigantic revelation that this is what that was. Okay. I don't really like the smell of nooch either. And it smells exactly like this. We'll put the lid on, pour this incredibly hot liquid into here. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to use a funnel. YOLO. There we go. Who needs a damn funnel? Now with that mixed up in there, we're going to take a gravity reading. 1.081. Expected gravity 1.083, so very close to our expected initial gravity. So go ahead and dump this out into here. And then we're going to go ahead and pitch our yeast. Yeast we are using for this is Red Star Premier Blanc. And I'm going to need to cut this pack. God, yeast manufacturers, make it so you can just rip open the packets. Come on. I'm going to pitch an entire packet because I have lots of this yeast. Mixing this up. So we're going to pitch the entire packet into here, and then I'm going to go ahead and oxygenate this. So our oxygenation process is really complicated. It includes putting a lid on it and then shaking the crap out of it. Very complicated process. So. Oh, well that is leaking. Increase the seal on here. Okay, well, it was leaking a little bit, so I had to tighten it up so I got a little bit sticky. And now I'm going to add our last ingredient to here, which is our pectic enzyme. Adding a teaspoon of pectic enzyme. Sorry, I'm going to use it through the funnel. There you go. When in doubt, just put the funnel on. Okay, pectic enzyme added. And now we're going to go ahead and toss an airlock on this bad boy, let them set aside for a month. And then we're going to do our dry hop addition. And you'll see this, well, you'll see this like in a few seconds, but it'll be a month later for me. So it's been several weeks since we started our Element Zero cider. And we have gotten to the point where we have transferred this into our secondary. Put it in the fridge for a little bit to let it crash and kind of get some of these solids out of here. But it looks like it has a pretty good protein haze in here right now. So unless we do some sort of another fining agent in here, it's probably not going to clear on its own. And that's fine because we're not really caring about that right now. We're making a cool cider, not making a cider to be judged. So let's not care about that right now. Going to go ahead and do our dried hop and dry spice edition. I have our bag that has been sanitized. This is a hop bag. I like using hop bags when I do my dry cider edition or dry hop editions because they just make everything easier to clean up. You can just take the bag right out. We have 5 dried buzz buttons. Let's go ahead and put them into the bag. And we have a ½ an ounce of Citra hops. Go ahead and put this into the bag too. Oops, lost a hop. Lost 2 hops. Hoppity hop. So these are specifically Citra Cryo hops. They're from Yakima Chief hops, and they're grown right here in the Pacific Northwest. So in the Yakima Valley, very close to where I live. So very cool. They grow a lot of good hop varieties inside the Northwest. Going to put our dry hops and our dried buzz buttons into here, and we're going to let this go for about 2 to 3 days. I think I'm going to do 3 days for this one, and we'll try it and see how it is in a couple of days from now, and let that go. So we'll check back in a few days. All right, everybody, we're going to continue on with our Element Zero cider. We have our final product over here, which after a few rackings, we were able to clear it up a little bit. So this has been going for a couple months now, and we're going to start our bottling prep process. So we're going to be using tonic water. Tonic water contains something called quinine. Quinine is an ingredient that, as you can see here, interacts with UV light to produce a blue glow. We're also going to be using some royal blue food coloring into our mixture over here to get it to a nice blue consistency so that we can have that kind of sci-fi looking thing. If you look at the Mass Effect cores, they're always just like really kind of iridescent shades of blue, so I want to have that pop from our quinine over here to have that nice like radioactive blue looking effect. I'm wondering how far I'll be able to get with the actual royal blue food coloring, because this is still a little bit cloudy and kind of towards the grayish brownish side, so we'll see. One thing to note is that both the food coloring and the quinine over here, well, and the tonic water, have an ingredient called sodium benzoate, which effectively acts like potassium sorbate inside of, inside of your home brew. So what it's going to do is prevent yeast replication, and that's going to kind of stunt our yeast development when they're in the bottling phase. So what we're going to actually do is we're going to pitch an extra packet of our Premier Blanc yeast, and that'll allow us to kickstart bottling process. So to start this off, we're going to be adding 6 ounces of our tonic water. Tonic water has exactly 35 grams of sugar per 12 fluid ounces, so we're targeting about 17 to 18 grams of sugar in our our carbonation part of this. So that equates to 6 ounces or 175 milliliters. So we're going to go ahead and add our 175 milliliters of tonic water. So that is about 175 milliliters, and put it directly into our mixture. And next we're going to be adding our blue food coloring. Ooh, that is really blue. Nice. I like that. Let's go ahead and give this a mix around our sanitized bottling wand. Look at that. I tell you, that looks really blue to me. All nice and mixed here. When you're doing this, it's going to function as two things, both degassing and mixing this around. So no turbulent mixing while you're doing this, and you should be good to go. Now we're going to be adding our sci-fi ingredient to make this a Element Zero cider. This is our Buzzbud extract. If you want to see how to make this, go ahead and take a look in the description. I never know if I'm pointing the right way, so if I'm pointing the wrong way, just go the other side. So we are going to be adding just about 100 milliliters of our Buzzbud extract. I did some tests earlier to see what the ideal mixture ratio is, and about 4% per volume. So I'm going to add that into here. Buzzbud extract, here we go. Finally, we're going to be adding our Premier Blanc yeast and adding it directly into here, pitching on top, and just giving it a nice good mix around. Right on top, a whole packet. Don't want any chances of stalled fermentations in bottle. Give a nice mix around. It's all settled out evenly dispersed. All right, well, next part's the easy part. We have our bottles inside of our little bottling station down below. We have our bottling wand attached to the spigot end of our fermenter, and we're going to go ahead and bottle these by just turning on this end and then depressing the bottling wand to bottle in each one of these bottles and filling them up all the way until it reaches the rim, and then going from one bottle to the next until we get all the bottles filled, or however many we have. So I'm going to get that started. Well, I'm pretty pleased with the result of this. Certainly does look like something out of a sci-fi video game or movie or show with this bright blue color. A lot of sci-fi has a ridiculous colored drink, so I think this is just hitting that nail on the head there. Was able to get 15 bottles full, and then this little tiny amount of dregs over here. I'll check back in a couple weeks to see how it is carbonated.